As scary as it looks, this picture has been shrouded in mystery for years now, and it is probably the most peculiar ghosts caught on camera. The story goes back to the mid-1950s, taking place in Texas. The Cooper family had just moved into an old house that they bought and were really excited about it. So, they thought of preserving this memory by taking a picture of the whole family in their new home. But little did they know that there was someone else joining in on their celebration, a spooky figure hanging upside down from the ceiling. There are perhaps other stories that state that an actual body did fall off from the ceiling exactly at the time the photograph was being taken. Why the face of the body remains darkened is another mystery, a faceless body or a paranormal activity. Who knows which part is true? This photo was captured by a nurse on a surveillance camera at an unknown hospital. The images shows a dark, crouched figure, resembling a demon, standing on top of a patient's body who was lying in bed. The nurse also noticed the black figure walking up and down the body of the patient. Within a few hours of the dark figure's appearance, the patient had died. As creepy as it may sound, demon-like figures have been reportedly seen at hospitals. Some say hospitals are the breeding ground for demons. It's where they lurk about, waiting for the next soul to die so they can drag them to hell. However, no authentic sources can be cited in support of such claims. In the early morning hours of November 13, 1974, Ronald DeFeo Jr. fatally shot his father, two brothers, and sister. The bodies were found face down on the respective beds with no signs of bullet wounds on the corpses or any struggle. And even though the neighbors lived close by, none of them heard sounds, screams, or noises. Mr. DeFeo claimed that ghosts were present during the events and had guided him into eliminating his siblings, though his original intent was just to execute his father. The home at 112 Ocean Avenue eventually went up for sale and was later purchased by George and Kathy Lutz. Though they were told by the realtor about the tragedy, the Lutzes were so enamored with the home, pool, garage, and 4,000 square feet of waterfront that they immediately made an offer. The next 28 days followed a set of horrific paranormal activities that would shock the Lutz family. From the possessed suicidal dog to the image half-headed demon on the wall, green slime running off of keyholes and spirits staring blankly through the bedroom windows, the Lutz family constantly encountered a ghostly presence in the doomed house. Finally, when they could take it no more, they were forced to evacuate the house in a hurry. They called in investigators to study the place, all of whom claimed to have felt a strange presence in the house. One of the investigators happened to click a photo of the boy ghost peeking out of a room. Whether or not facts of this case were stretched or a complete hoax altogether, it still remains one of the most frightening and sensationalized ghost stories of our time. Popularly known as the face in the window, the mysterious face staring out of the Pickens County Courthouse in Carrollton, Alabama is one of Alabama's best-known ghosts. It can be sighted anytime, day or night, constantly staring out of a window. The story revolves around a former slave named Henry Wells, freed at the end of Civil War. Legend holds that he was accused of burning the courthouse to ashes. Arrested, pursued by a lynch mob, Wells is said to have fled to hide in the attic of the third courthouse, which was under construction. As the angry mob searched frantically for him, Wells peered out of a window to watch. To his shock, however, lightning struck him at that very moment and forever etched his face on the window. It is widely believed to this day that the ghostly face of Henry Wells continues to peer down from the courthouse window. Known as the Ghost Bridge, it is surrounded by several different versions of the story. But only one of them can be verified. The ghost roaming the bridge is of an unfortunate wife who was thrown off the bridge into the water and killed by her soldier husband in the 1960s. One story also mentions that on a certain night you can see her decomposing body walking the area under the bridge or on top of the bridge. It is said that if you happen to turn your car off on the bridge, it will not start again unless you put it off the bridge or till the sun comes up. Fact or fiction? You decide. Coughing up blood, overcrowded, understaffed, bizarre, unethical, twisted treatments. Welcome to Waverly Hills Sanatorium, a medical facility that was once dedicated to treat patients suffering from tuberculosis, long before the modern cure was discovered. Without the antibiotics, the hospital provided the only known cure at that time: fresh air and sunshine, and thus the patients spent the majority of their time in the solarium-like porchways. There were many other unethical ways that were used to treat patients which were downright dangerous, and only 5% patients survived the treatment. It is believed that as many as 8,000 patient dead bodies were carelessly thrown down a chute and then taken out of the building through an underground tunnel. This method of disposing the bodies was kept confidential by doctors' orders who wanted patients to be unaware of the quantity of dead bodies. But with the discovery of the antibiotic that could successfully treat and cure tuberculosis, the sanatorium was closed down. Many believe that the spirits of the patients still roam about the hospital in search of answers. The most famous being of a nurse named Mary Lee who happened to contract the disease. But the story takes a horrific twist when she was found hanging from a light apparatus in room 502. Some believe she took her life after she found out that she was pregnant with the child from one of the doctors and unmarried. Tragically, her body lay undiscovered for a long time. The picture is of the ghostly figure captured on camera, who is believed to be of Mary Lee, forever roaming the corridors of the hospital groaning in pain. The SS Watertown ghosts are classic examples of real ghosts caught on film. The story behind the photograph dates back to December 1924. The SS Watertown was making its way to the Panama Canal from New York City. Crewman Seaman James Courtney and Michael Meehan were assigned to clean out a cargo tank of the oil tanker as the ship sailed through the Pacific Ocean. But as tragedy has it, the seamen were overcome by gas fumes during the task and died before help could reach them. Following the tradition of the sea, their bodies were committed to the ocean on December 4th. The following day, just before dusk, the first mate reported seeing the faces of the two men in the waves off the port side of the ship. They were seen for 10 seconds but then faded. For several days after that, the crew reported consistently seeing the phantom-like faces of the doomed sailors in the water who seemed to be following the ship every now and then. The entire ship was in uproar. Once the ship arrived at New Orleans, the ship's captain, Keith Tracy, reported the strange events to his employers, the city's service company, who suggested he try to photograph the eerie faces. In the continuing voyage, Captain Tracy took 6 snapshots. Once the ghosts were spotted again, out of which 5 showed nothing but foam upon development, but the 6th photo clearly showed the doomed sailors floating heads in the sea. From then on, there have been frequent sightings of the SS Watertown ghosts by many ships and sailors in the following years, doomed to roam the sea for their untimely and tragic deaths. The Raynham Hall ghost, popularly known as the Brown Lady, is perhaps the most famous ghost ever captured on camera. This photograph of her on the staircase was taken in 1936 at Raynham Hall, Norfolk, England, and is in fact the most authentic paranormal photographs of all time. The Brown Lady, named so because she appears in a brown brocade dress, is widely believed to be the ghost of Lady Dorothy Walpole, who married Charles, 2nd Viscount Townshend in 1713. It was rumored that Dorothy had been a mistress of Lord Wharton, before she married Charles. Dorothy was thus suspected of infidelity by Charles. Although legal records say that she was buried in 1726, it was suspected that the funeral was just a hoax and that Charles had locked his wife away in a remote corner of the house until her death many years later. Whatever be the reason of her death, it was all too mysterious, and if that wasn't enough, people started reporting sighting of her ghost shortly after her death, which were fairly unauthentic and couldn't be proved. But one account of sighting by a man named Major Loftus, who was staying at Raynham Hall in 1849, has been regarded as an authentic source. Retiring to bed one night, Major Loftus and his friend observed a woman in brown brocade on the staircase. She immediately vanished as Major Loftus tried to approach her. Determined to confront the apparition, he returned to the same spot the following night and saw her again. He was horrified to see, however, that when he looked into her face he saw only 2 black sockets where her eyes should have been. Creepy and unsettling, to say the least. The White Lady is rumored to be the ghost of Lady Mabel Brads Hay, a lady of the manor at Hay in the early 14th century. She was married to the knight, William Brads Hay. In 1315, William fled the country after his involvement in a rebellion against the Earl of Lancaster. Hearing nothing from her husband for many years, Lady Mabel eventually remarried. However, William returned back in 1322. He killed his wife's new husband and resumed living at the Hay Manor House until 1333, when he fought another rival and this time was killed himself. In penance for her bigamy, Lady Mabel made a daily barefoot walk to a stone monument just outside Wigan's north wall, a total distance of about 6 miles. No one really knows how Lady Mabel's ghost looks so creepy. She was not an evil person in life, though she was said to be unhappy in her final days. They say, you must never look at her face, its vacant features has left many insane and forced to lose their minds. This picture was taken by a woman named Andrews while on a visit to her daughter's grave at a cemetery in Queensland, Australia in the 1940s. The daughter, Joyce, died before the age of 17. Andrews saw nothing unusual while taking this photograph of her daughter's tombstone. But when she got it developed, she was shocked to see the apparition of what looked like the ghost of a young girl sitting on the grave. Andrews was unable to recognize the child nor believed it to be the ghost of her daughter in her youth. Upon further investigation, paranormal researchers found the grave site of Andrews' daughter to be near the graves of 2 infant girls. The ghost in the picture seems to be aware of Andrews' presence as she is seen looking directly at the camera. Poor soul, so... A squadron of the Royal Air Force assembled together to take a group photo in 1919. No one realized that they would find Freddie Jackson accompanying them in the picture taken by retired RAF officer Sir Victor Goddard. Freddie Jackson was a mechanic for the Royal Air Force who served on board the HMS Daedalus. He was brutally killed 2 days earlier by accidentally strolling into a spinning propeller blade, which caused instant death. His funeral was held the very next day. But eerie as it may sound, Freddie Jackson returned just 2 days later as a ghost for one final time to be a part of the group photo. Several of the other men in the photo confirmed that it was in fact Jackson's face in the background of the picture.